Tom Jenkins always thought he'd seen it all. From runaway cows to a neighbor who once tried to claim his pond as a community swimming hole, nothing really surprised him anymore. But when he woke up that Tuesday morning and saw something that made him question reality itself, he knew the day was about to take a turn for the worse. His red tractor, the one he had owned for 5 years, the one he had worked countless hours on, was gone. Not stolen in the middle of the night by some professional thief, not sold by some mistake, but missing in broad daylight. And worse yet, he didn't have to look far to find it. Right there, across the property line, as bold as a rooster at sunrise, sat his tractor. And there she was, Karen, his insufferable neighbor, sitting high on the driver's seat, gripping the wheel like she was queen of the land. Tom blinked, rubbed his eyes, and even slapped himself lightly on the cheek, but the vision remained unchanged. Karen, with her signature smug smirk, was riding his tractor as if she had just won it in a county fair. The absurdity of the situation was almost comical if it weren't so infuriating. Tom wasted no time storming over to her property, marching through the grass like a man on a mission. "Karen," he shouted, his voice carrying across the yard. "What in the world do you think you're doing on my tractor?" Karen didn't even flinch. She adjusted her oversized sunglasses, gave him a slow, deliberate look, and then had the nerve to laugh. "Oh, Tom," she said, as if speaking to a confused child. "I thought you weren't using it, so I decided to put it to good use. It was just sitting there, abandoned." Tom felt a vein in his forehead threaten to burst. "Abandoned? Karen, it was locked in my barn." Karen waved a dismissive hand. "Technicality. You always leave the door unlocked." That was a lie, and they both knew it. "So you just helped yourself to it?" She shrugged. "You weren't using it, and I had some landscaping to do. Besides, it looks better on my land than yours." Tom's mind struggled to process the sheer level of entitlement radiating from her words. This wasn't some minor misunderstanding. Karen had outright stolen his tractor, and was now acting like she had done him a favor. He inhaled deeply, trying to keep his temper in check. "All right, this is real simple. You're gonna climb off that tractor, walk back into your house, and I'll forget this ever happened." Karen crossed her arms, her smug grin widening. "Oh, I don't think so, Tom. This is my tractor now." His patience snapped. "The hell it is." Karen reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. "If you don't stop harassing me on my property, I'll have to call the authorities." Tom let out a short, incredulous laugh. "You're going to call the cops on me? For trying to take back my stolen tractor?" "I prefer the term rehomed," Karen corrected, tilting her head like she was some sort of tractor adoption agency. "And yes, you're trespassing, Tom." For a brief moment, Tom considered yanking her off the seat himself, but that was exactly what she wanted. Karen thrived on drama. She was the type of person who would scream bloody murder over a missing trash can lid just to get the HOA involved. No, this required strategy. So he took a step back, held up his hands, and gave her a slow nod. "All right, Karen. You win this round. But let's see what the sheriff has to say about it." As he turned on his heel and walked back to his house, he heard her call after him, "Go ahead. I'll tell them you gave it to me." Tom didn't bother responding. He went straight inside, grabbed his phone, and dialed the number he had memorized years ago. Sheriff Dawson picked up on the second ring. "Jenkins? What's the emergency?" "Sheriff," Tom said, still fuming, "I need you to come down to my property. My neighbor just stole my tractor, and she's refusing to give it back." There was a short pause before the sheriff sighed. "Let me guess. Karen." Tom pinched the bridge of his nose. "Who else?" "All right, I'm on my way." It wasn't long before the sheriff's car pulled up, kicking up dust as it rolled to a stop in front of Karen's property. By now, Karen had parked the tractor like a trophy in her yard and was standing beside it with an air of ownership that made Tom's blood boil. As Sheriff Dawson stepped out of his vehicle, Karen immediately switched into victim mode. "Oh, thank goodness you're here, Sheriff," she said dramatically, placing a hand over her heart. Tom has been harassing me all morning. He's making wild accusations, and I just don't feel safe. The sheriff gave her an unimpressed look. Karen, did you take Tom's tractor? She gasped as if the mere question was an insult. Take? No, Sheriff. He gave it to me. Weeks ago. And now, for some reason, he's changed his mind. Tom threw up his arms. That is the biggest load of... The sheriff held up a hand. Calm down, Tom. He turned back to Karen. Do you have any proof of this alleged gift? Karen smiled sweetly. Oh, Sheriff, do we really need to get into legal formalities? It was a verbal agreement between neighbors. The sheriff glanced at Tom. You ever say anything about giving her your tractor? Not unless keep your hands off my property counts, Tom snapped. Sheriff Dawson sighed, clearly exhausted by the situation already. Karen, you can't just take someone's vehicle and claim ownership. Karen folded her arms. Well, Tom doesn't have proof that it's his, either. Oh, you want proof? Tom shot back. I've got receipts, registration, and pictures. Give me 10 minutes, and I'll bury you in paperwork. Karen's confidence faltered for just a second before she straightened her shoulders. Well, until then, possession is 9/10 of the law, right? Sheriff Dawson exhaled sharply through his nose. Karen, I strongly suggest you return the tractor before this becomes a real problem. I'll think about it, she said airily. Tom clenched his jaw. That was it. He wasn't playing this game anymore. If she wanted to test the legal system, then she was about to get a front-row seat. He turned back to the sheriff, his mind already working on the next move. All right, Sheriff. If that's how she wants to play it, I'd like to report my tractor as stolen. Karen's smug expression wavered. Oh, don't be ridiculous, Tom. Oh, I'm dead serious, he shot back. You wanted legal formalities? You're about to get him. Sheriff Dawson gave Karen one last look. Final warning, Karen. Return the tractor, or we go by the book. Karen held her ground, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes now. Tom could almost hear the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out an escape. But there was none. This was no longer about a petty argument. She had taken something that wasn't hers, and now the law was getting involved. Tom gave her a slow smile. You wanted to keep it, huh? Well, I hope you enjoy explaining to a judge how you rehomed my tractor. As the sheriff walked back to his car to file the report, Tom knew one thing for sure. This was far from over. Karen had dug herself into a hole, and he was going to enjoy every second of watching her try to climb out. Tom sat on his porch, sipping his coffee, staring at Karen's yard where his tractor still sat, as if mocking him. The sun had barely risen, but he was already scheming. Reporting it as stolen was the first step, but he knew Karen wasn't going to give up without a fight. She was too stubborn, too entitled, and too convinced that she was the smartest person in the room. But this time, she had messed with the wrong man. Sheriff Dawson had assured him that the report had been filed and that the law was on his side. But legal processes took time, and Tom knew that Karen would keep using the tractor for as long as she could. The real question was, how much deeper would she dig herself into trouble before reality smacked her in the face? The answer came sooner than he expected. Karen, in her infinite wisdom, decided that her new prized possession needed to be shown off. So she did what any arrogant fool would do, she bragged about it. She posted pictures on social media, boasting about her brand-new tractor, claiming she had gotten a great deal on it. She even went as far as to tag some of the HOA members, rubbing it in their faces. Tom almost felt bad for her. Almost. Because what she failed to realize was that, in doing so, she had just given him the perfect ammunition. He saved every post, screenshotting each ridiculous claim she made. He even saw one where she had written, "Finally upgraded my old junky mower for something better. Love my new tractor." The sheer gall of this woman was astounding. She wasn't just lying to him anymore, she was lying to the entire internet. And that was about to backfire in the most spectacular way. Later that afternoon, Tom got a call from the sheriff, and he could already hear the exhaustion in the man's voice. "Jenkins, you're not gonna believe this." "Oh, I think I will," Tom replied, already smirking. "Karen just called the station." Tom nearly choked on his coffee. "You've gotta be kidding me." "Dead serious. She's claiming that you're spreading false accusations about her online and that she wants to press charges against you for harassment." Tom let out a sharp laugh. "Let me get this straight. She stole my tractor. I reported it. And now she's mad because I'm proving it's mine." "Exactly." Tom shook his head in disbelief. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that if she really wanted to take this to court, she was welcome to. But considering the fact that her so-called new tractor was already registered as stolen property, she might want to reconsider." Tom grinned. "And what did she say to that?" "She hung up." Tom leaned back in his chair, satisfied. But he knew Karen wasn't done yet. She was too proud to back down now, and if he knew anything about her, it was that she was going to try to turn the situation in her favor. She was too deep in her delusion to see that she had already lost. The next morning, Tom got word that Karen had entered her new tractor into the town parade. If he hadn't already been sure she had completely lost her mind, this confirmed it. She had decorated the tractor in pink ribbons and set it up as one of the main features. There was even a sign on it that said, "Karen's Big Investment." Tom could barely contain his laughter. This woman had just stolen something and was now flaunting it in front of the entire town. If there was an award for self-destruction, she was winning by a landslide. Tom made his way to the parade, standing on the sidewalk as the floats and decorated vehicles passed by. And then, there she was, sitting atop his tractor like some kind of royalty, waving to the crowd as if she hadn't just committed a felony. People clapped and cheered, most of them completely unaware of what was happening. But Tom wasn't worried. He knew what was coming next. A few yards down the road, one of the event organizers was doing live coverage for the local news station. A reporter stood next to a laptop, doing a segment about the parade. As each vehicle passed by, she read off some basic information. Then it was Karen's turn. "And here comes one of our local HOA board members, showing off her beautiful new tractor," the reporter said with a bright smile. She turned to her screen, doing a quick check. "Let's see, this model is..." She frowned. There was a slight pause. The smile wavered. Then she looked up, her face turning several shades paler. Hold on just a moment." Tom watched with amusement as the realization dawned on her. The tractor's registration had been flagged in the system. The words, "reported stolen," flashed on her screen. Karen, completely oblivious, kept waving, basking in the attention. Then the sirens started. A police car, followed by another, rolled up from behind the parade route, pulling up beside the slow-moving tractor. The officers stepped out, one of them speaking into his radio, while the other approached Karen. Karen's smile vanished. She looked at the officer in confusion, then horror, as he gestured for her to step down. The crowd had gone quiet, watching the scene unfold with curiosity. Tom edged closer, just in time to hear the conversation. "Ma'am, we have reason to believe this tractor is stolen property," the officer said, his expression calm but firm. Karen let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, this must be a mistake. This is my tractor. I bought it fair and square. Do you have proof of purchase?" "Well, not exactly, but..." The officer held up a hand. "The registered owner of this tractor filed a theft report. We have documented evidence, including receipts and registration, proving ownership. You need to step off the vehicle now." Karen's face went through a full spectrum of emotions: shock, disbelief, desperation. Then, in a final act of defiance, she did the dumbest thing possible. She hit the gas. The tractor, not exactly built for speed, lurched forward at a painfully slow pace, rolling a few feet before another police car pulled in front of it, blocking her path. Karen shrieked as the officers moved in, yanking her from the driver's seat and placing her in handcuffs. The crowd erupted into whispers and laughter. Some people pulled out their phones to record the spectacle. Karen, red-faced and furious, yelled something about being set up, about how Tom was obsessed with ruining her life. But no one was buying it. The moment was too perfect, too ridiculous to be anything but karma at its finest. Tom stood there, arms crossed, taking in the scene. It was over. She had done exactly what he knew she would do, push her luck until it pushed back. And now she was about to face the consequences. As the officers led Karen toward the patrol car, she shot one last glare in Tom's direction. "You did this to me." Tom smirked. "No, Karen. You did this to yourself." She let out a frustrated scream as the car door slammed shut. The crowd began to disperse, people still chuckling about what they had just witnessed. Tom turned back to his truck, feeling lighter than he had in days. He had gotten his tractor back. But more than that, he had won. And as he climbed into his seat and turned the key, he couldn't help but laugh. Karen had wanted the spotlight. Well, she got it. Just not in the way she had hoped. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread fast about Karen's spectacular downfall, and now half the town had shown up to watch the grand finale. Tom sat in the front row, arms crossed, watching as Karen squirmed in her seat at the defendant's table. She looked nothing like the smug, entitled woman who had stolen his tractor. Her hair was disheveled, her usual air of superiority replaced with a look of barely contained panic. She knew she was in deep trouble, but as always, she wasn't going to admit it. Not yet. The judge entered, and the room settled into silence. The charges were read out loud: grand theft, falsifying ownership, and obstruction of an investigation. Tom had to bite his cheek to keep from grinning. Karen, of course, pleaded not guilty, claiming this was all a big misunderstanding, a case of neighborly miscommunication that had gotten out of hand. Her lawyer, a man who looked like he deeply regretted taking this case, tried to spin the story in her favor. "Your Honor, my client firmly believed the tractor had been abandoned. She saw it as an opportunity to put it to better use, as any responsible community member would." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Abandoned?" Mr. Jenkins reported the tractor stolen, had documentation proving ownership, and even confronted your client about it before filing the report. "That doesn't sound like an abandoned vehicle to me." Karen jumped in before her lawyer could stop her. "But Your Honor, he never really used it. It was just sitting there. What's the harm in me borrowing it?" The judge gave her a long, unimpressed look. "Borrowing requires permission, Ms. Mitchell. Did you have permission?" Karen's mouth opened, then closed. She huffed, crossing her arms like a child denied dessert. The prosecution wasted no time dismantling whatever weak defense she had. They played surveillance footage from a security camera near Tom's barn, showing Karen sneaking onto his property, breaking the lock, and rolling the tractor away under cover of darkness. They showed her social media posts bragging about her new investment. Then, the final nail in the coffin, footage from the parade, where she flaunted the stolen tractor for the entire town to see, only to be arrested in the most humiliating way possible. Karen's face turned redder with each piece of evidence. By the time the prosecution was done, she looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. The judge sighed, rubbing his temples, clearly exhausted by the absurdity of the case. "This is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in my courtroom," he muttered before delivering the verdict. "Ms. Mitchell, you are guilty on all counts. You are to pay restitution to Mr. Jenkins for any damages incurred, along with a fine for theft and trespassing. Additionally, you will serve 50 hours of community service." Karen gasped. "Community service?" "Yes," the judge said with a smirk. "And given the nature of this case, I think it's only fitting that your service be spent assisting on a local farm. Perhaps then, you'll learn the value of respecting other people's property." Tom nearly burst out laughing. The irony was too perfect. Karen, who had acted like she was some farming expert, was now sentenced to real farm labor. The best part? The farm she would be working at was none other than Tom's. The look on her face was priceless. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am very serious," the judge replied, before banging the gavel and signaling the end of the trial. Days later, Karen showed up at Tom's farm wearing an expression of pure misery. She had tried to appeal the sentence, of course, but the judge hadn't budged. Now she stood in front of him, dressed in cheap work clothes, scowling as if she were being forced into manual labor for the first time in her life. Tom grinned at her. "Welcome to Jenkins' farm, Karen. Hope you're ready to get your hands dirty." Karen groaned. "Let's just get this over with." For the next few weeks, Karen was put through every grueling farm task Tom could think of. Cleaning out the chicken coops, pulling weeds, hauling sacks of feed, and worst of all, mucking out the pig pens. She gagged every time she stepped foot near the pigs, dramatically covering her nose and whining about the smell. Tom watched with great amusement as she struggled through each task, complaining the entire time. She tried to get out of it, of course. She faked back pain, allergies, even pretended to have a sudden phobia of hay. But the court order was clear, and there was no escape. The townspeople had a field day watching her. Some even came by just to see the great Karen actually doing real work. She had spent years bossing neighbors around through the HOA, enforcing petty rules and demanding ridiculous standards. Now those same people got to see her covered in mud and sweat, struggling to lift a bucket of water without spilling it all over herself. By the end of her sentence, Karen looked like a completely different person. Her perfectly styled hair was constantly frizzy, her designer nails had long since chipped away, and her entitled attitude had taken a severe beating. On her last day, Tom handed her a broom and gestured toward the barn. "One final task. Sweep it out, and then you're free to go." Karen groaned but took the broom without arguing. She had learned that resistance only made things worse. As she swept, Tom leaned against the fence, watching her with a satisfied grin. "So, Karen, what did we learn from all this?" She shot him a glare but didn't respond. Tom chuckled. "Let me help you out. 1. Stealing is bad. 2. If you're gonna steal, don't brag about it online. 3. Parades are terrible escape routes." Karen clenched her jaw, muttering something under her breath as she kept sweeping. Tom wasn't sure if she had truly learned her lesson, but one thing was for certain: she wasn't going to forget this humiliation anytime soon. As she finished her final task and stomped toward her car, Tom called out, "Hey, Karen." She turned, glaring at him. "What?" Tom smirked. "If you ever need a ride on a tractor again, just ask. I might even let you pull weeds while you're at it." Karen let out an exasperated scream before speeding away. Tom shook his head, watching her go. Some people never change. But at least now, she knew one thing for sure: messing with a farmer never ends well.